I knew something was fundamentally, irrevocably wrong the moment my father called me on Thanksgiving Day. It wasn't just that he called, it was how the phone vibrated against the polished granite of my countertop. A frantic, desperate buzz. I was standing in my sun-drenched kitchen, wrapped in a favorite oversized cardigan that felt like a hug, sipping warm, spiced cider from a clay mug. The scent of cinnamon and cloves filled the air. It was the first quiet holiday I'd had in a decade, and I was breathing it in. My phone buzzed again, a persistent, angry little tremor in my peaceful sanctuary. I let it ring, a small act of rebellion, until the fourth vibration. Then finally, I picked up. His voice, usually so sharp and commanding, a tool he wielded with military precision, was cracked and splintered like old, weathered wood. It was thin, reedy, and stripped of all its usual authority. "Claire, the food. It never came." I tilted my head, my heart a steady, calm drumbeat in my chest. I looked out the window at the golden autumn leaves skittering across my lawn. They were free. "Oh," I said, my voice softer than a whisper, but I knew it would land like a thunderclap. "That's strange. I figured you didn't need anything from me this year." Silence. A thick, cavernous void stretched across the line. It wasn't the silence of confusion. It wasn't shock. It was the heavy, awkward, and for me, beautifully uncomfortable silence of dawning comprehension. Growing up a Hawthorne meant understanding your place with brutal clarity. And my place? I was the infrastructure, the responsible one, the fixer, the unpaid on-call therapist, the emergency financial backup. I wasn't the golden child, like my brother, or the fragile, artistic one, like my sister. I was the glue, the silent, sturdy, reliable glue that held the whole precarious structure together, and no one ever stopped to thank the glue. Holidays weren't about love or connection in my family. They were elaborate performances. We staged sparkling place settings, forced smiles, and conversations as hollow as a chocolate Easter bunny, all to barely conceal the bubbling cauldron of favoritism, resentment, and unspoken tensions that simmered just beneath the surface. So, no, I wasn't surprised when I was uninvited from Thanksgiving. Not really. Just disappointed in myself that I hadn't seen it coming sooner. It happened with the kind of subtle cruelty my mother specialized in. A week before the holiday, my Aunt Elise had texted the family group chat. A flurry of turkey and leaf emojis. "Can't wait to see everyone for Thanksgiving." Like a fool, I responded immediately. My excitement genuine. "Same, looking forward to it so much." The digital crickets were deafening. No one replied. Not a single like or heart. That night, a private message slid into my inbox from my cousin, Sarah. "Wait, are you actually coming? Because your mom told everyone you weren't invited this year." The floor didn't just fall out from under me, the entire house collapsed. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, and called my mom, a nauseous wave of disbelief washing over me. She danced around the truth with practiced ease, a ballerina of avoidance, before finally delivering the line she'd rehearsed. "We're just keeping it small this year, honey. Just immediate family." "I am immediate family," I said, my voice dangerously level. A long, weary sigh traveled through the phone. "Claire, please don't make this difficult. It's just easier this way. Easier." There had been no tension, no family-wide conflict. At least, not until I had started erecting boundaries. Not until I started saying no. No, I wouldn't co-sign my brother's car loan. No, I couldn't cover the last-minute overages on my sister's wedding debt. Suddenly, the glue was no longer serving its purpose, and I had become a problem. And yet, they had still let me pay for the entire Thanksgiving dinner. Weeks earlier, my dad had called with his signature casualness, the one he used when he was about to ask for something big. "Claire, we were thinking everyone could chip in for the meal this year." What he meant, and what we both understood, was that I would be expected to pay for everything. I covered the entire $3,800 catering bill, the heritage turkey, the gourmet sides, the artisanal pies and desserts. I'd even placed all the orders myself, coordinating delivery times and dietary restrictions. Everything was under my name. So after my mother's phone call, after the initial shock hardened into a cold, diamond-hard resolve, I made two very simple phone calls of my own. First, to Harvest Table Catering. They were wonderful, a full, no questions asked refund. Second, to Sweetheart Bakery. They were a little more hesitant, but after I explained that the delivery address was for a party I would no longer be attending, they came around. Then I turned off my phone, made myself a cup of tea, and waited. Thanksgiving Day, 12:22 p.m. The phone rang. "Claire, the food never came." I could hear the chaos blooming in the background, distant, confused murmurs escalating into rising panic. Then my mother's voice, sharp and serrated, cutting through the noise like a knife. "What does she mean by that? Ask her what she means." I replied sweetly, picturing the scene with cinematic clarity. "I'm not sure, Dad. Maybe you should check with whoever placed the order?" "That was you," he snapped, his voice frayed with desperation. I paused, letting the silence hang in the air for a perfect theatrical beat. "Was it?" Then I hung up. Later that evening, my cousin Sarah, my reliable inside source, filled me in. The scene was pure, unadulterated chaos. No turkey, no stuffing, no mashed potatoes, no desserts, nothing. My sister had apparently burst into tears and locked herself in the guest room. She'd brought a new boyfriend she was trying to impress. My mom had retreated to the master bathroom, refusing to come out. My dad just sat in his armchair in stunned, ashen-faced silence as someone finally asked the million-dollar question aloud. Wasn't Clara supposed to be bringing the turkey? The room, Sarah said, had frozen over. 3 days later, a text from my mother blinked onto my screen. "We missed you at Thanksgiving. Hope we can all put this behind us soon." No apology, no acknowledgement, just a broom and a rug, handed to me with the expectation that I would sweep her mess under it. I stared at the message, deleted it, and blocked her number. Annalise called next. Her voice was quiet, serious. "A lot of us confronted them, Claire. Your uncle and I, Sarah's parents, we told them what they did was cruel. Your mom did not like it. Now she's telling everyone, well, she's saying you had some sort of mental breakdown." Of course. The classic move. If she couldn't control me, she would discredit me. I wasn't going to go to Christmas Eve dinner. I had planned a quiet night with a bottle of wine and a classic movie until I called Grandma Betty to wish her a Merry Christmas. "Want to be my +1 for Christmas dinner at your son's house?" I asked her, only half joking. She didn't hesitate for a second. "I'll bring the snark if you bring the car. Pick me up at 7. I arrived fashionably late. The Vermont air was crisp and cutting as I stepped out of the car. I walked up the stone path, my 80-year-old grandmother on my arm, and stepped inside. Conversation sputtered and died. The record player seemed to scratch. My mother froze mid-sentence, her wine glass hovering near her lips. My father looked like he'd seen a ghost. My sister stared at me, her eyes wide, as if I were a vengeful spirit summoned by her own guilt. I smiled, a wide, genuine, unapologetic smile. "Merry Christmas, everyone!" Then I stepped aside to reveal my guest of honor, Grandma Betty, looking regal and armed with a sharp wit. My mother went visibly pale. Dinner was a masterclass in tense perfection. Grandma took a delicate bite of the stuffing and said brightly, for the whole table to hear, "Oh, store-bought? That's nice. Tastes very consistent." I had to bite the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood to keep from laughing out loud. In the week that followed, the texts trickled in from various cousins and extended family members. Some were sympathetic. "Thinking of you, are you okay?" Others were bitter and accusatory. "I really didn't think you had it in you to be so cruel, Claire." Aunt Elise called with the latest spin. "The news story is that you're unstable. Your mother is saying your dramatic appearance at Christmas proved it." I laughed. It was a bitter, dry, utterly predictable sound. That night, I sat by my own Christmas tree, the colorful lights casting dancing shadows on the walls of my quiet apartment. I opened the family group chat for the first time in weeks and sent a single message. "Hey everyone, just wanted to clear the air. I'm doing great. No breakdowns, no drama. It's been an interesting holiday season for sure, but I'm genuinely in a good place. Hope you all are too. Happy New Year." It was short, unshakable, the truth. And then something completely unexpected happened. A private message from Michael, my brother. "Hey, can we talk?" We hadn't spoken in months, not since I'd refused to help him with his car loan. When I answered the phone, his voice was different, softer, hesitant. "I don't agree with what Mom did," he started, the words tumbling out. Thanksgiving felt wrong. The whole day was off. But Christmas, when you walked in with Grandma Betty, that's when it all clicked into place for me. I didn't say a word. I just let him talk, giving him the space I was never given. I didn't speak up because, well, you know how she gets. She turns on you. "Yeah," I said gently, my voice thick with emotion. "I do." "I don't think you're crazy, Claire. I want you to know that. You're not unstable, not even close." My throat closed up. A single hot tear traced a path down my cheek. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear that, especially from him. Weeks later, another call, this time from my parents' landline. My father's voice, stiff and formal. "Sunday dinner, 6 o'clock. We need to talk." I almost said no, but Aunt Elise urged me to go. "You don't have to forgive them, honey. You just have to make them say it to your face." So I went. I walked into that dining room feeling like a soldier stepping onto a familiar battlefield. My mom sat at the head of the table, a queen presiding over her court of judgment. My dad stood stiffly by the fireplace. My sister was already seated, looking down at her hands. Michael was there, quiet and nervous, but he met my eyes and gave a slight, encouraging nod. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family?" My mother snapped, skipping the pleasantries. "Which part are you referring to?" I asked calmly. "The part where I canceled the food you expected me to pay for but didn't want me to eat? The part where I brought our grandmother to a family holiday? Or the part where people finally stopped believing your version of the truth?" Her face flushed a deep, angry red. "You're always so dramatic." My father cut in, his voice gruff. "You've made your mother look bad, Claire." "She did that all by herself," I replied, my gaze unwavering. Then Michael spoke up, his voice clear and steady. "Mom, you excluded her.
You let her pay for a $4,000 meal, and then you told everyone she wasn't coming. What did you think was going to happen?" She turned on him, her eyes flashing. "Oh, don't you start too." But for the first time, he didn't back down. "No, you always do this when you feel cornered. You lash out and change the story." My dad let out a heavy sigh, the fight draining out of him. We should have handled it better." My mom looked at him as if he'd just stabbed her in the back. I stood up from my chair. "I don't need your apology. What I need is for you to understand that I'm done. I'm done being the villain in a story you write to make yourself feel better. You didn't just leave me out of a holiday. You tried to rewrite my reality and paint me as the crazy one to the entire family." I looked directly at my mother. "Why?" I asked, the question hanging in the air. "Why would you do that to me?" She didn't even hesitate. The answer was right on the surface. "Because I was embarrassed," she said, her voice small. "I was embarrassed to tell people I was fighting with my daughter." There it was. The truth. Not pretty, not kind, but honest. Ugly, raw, and selfishly honest. In the deafening silence that followed, I saw her clearly for the first time. Not as my mother, not as a monster, just as a deeply insecure woman, so terrified of being seen as flawed that she would rather destroy her own daughter's reputation than admit to a simple human mistake. "I'm done," I said again, the words feeling solid and real in my mouth. She tried to protest. "You don't just get to walk away from your family. You shut me out first. Then you lied about why. The door you closed is the one I'm walking through." I paused and looked at my dad. "You let it happen. And that, in some ways, hurt even more." I glanced at my siblings. My sister finally looked up, tears welling in her eyes. "I should have said something sooner, Claire. I'm sorry." Michael just nodded. "Me too." It didn't fix everything. It wasn't a magic wand, but it was a crack in the foundation of lies. It mattered. Now, things are different. My mom sends me shallow, performative texts sometimes. "Thinking of you." I don't reply. My dad stays silent. But Grandma Betty sends me handwritten notes every other week, filled with love and pride and funny newspaper clippings. And Michael and I, we meet for coffee every Sunday. We're getting to know each other again, not as the golden child and the fixer, but as two adults. He finally said it one day, swirling the foam in his latte. "I was so busy trying to keep the peace, I didn't see the war she was waging against you." I nodded, a sense of quiet validation washing over me. I know. And in that moment, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone anymore. So if you've ever been the scapegoat at the family table, the one who was called too sensitive for having feelings, the one who dared to say no and watch the smiles turn to stone, the one who saw the truth when everyone else was content to cling to the comfortable illusion, just know this. The empty chair you leave behind is not a monument to your shame. It's the wide open door to your freedom. Choose peace over performance. Choose respect over obligation. Choose yourself. And don't ever feel guilty for walking away from a table that only ever served you pain. Subscribe Revenge Catalysts for more stories of finding your voice and living authentically.